The LA Kings look like a different team when they're on home ice. We'll talk about that and more on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for the last 30 years. I'm also host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the last 18 years, and a passionate LA Kings fan for over 30 years. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. The LA Kings played game number 51 of the NHL season, but the first game on home ice in a while, as they had this 3-game homestand before a 2-week break before the Four Nations face-off. Kings were back home where they have the best winning percentage in the NHL, coming into the game 15-3-2 on home ice. LA was hosting the Montreal Canadiens, a young rebuilding team that has hopes of getting into the wild card race in the East. Kings, by the way, as far as their playoff picture looks, they are holding on to the third spot in the Pacific Division. Going into the game, they were just 1 point up on both Calgary and Vancouver, who were tied for the final wildcard spot in the West. As for the Kings lineup in this one, the Kings continuing to stick with that 12-6 setup. Jim Hiller said the other day at practice they would be going back to the 11-7 setup soon, but it wouldn't be against the Montreal Canadiens. Top line of Anze Kopitar, centering Adrian Kempe and Alex Turcotte. Second line of Philip Deneau with Trevor Moore and Warren Foegele. Third line of Quentin Byfield with Kevin Fiala and Alex Laferriere. Fourth line of Trevor Lewis with Tanner Jeannot and Akil Thomas. For the defensive pairings, it would be Vladislav Gavrikov along with Drew Doughty. Mikey Anderson still day-to-day, but should be back soon, according to head coach Jim Hiller. But would soon be before the Four Nations break. He wasn't saying, so we'll just have to wait and see. But at least it looks like after the Four Nations break, we will see Mikey Anderson again. Joel Edmondson would be paired with Brandt Clark on the second pairing, and Jacob Moverar with Jordan Spence on the third pairing. Darcy Kemper would get the start in net. David Riddick would be the backup. So the big question going to this game for me, pretty easy. Would we see the Kings team that we've seen for most of the season on home ice, despite their recent issues on that ugly road trip? Well, as far as the game summary in this one, the LA Kings came out great. Lots of energy, resulting in scoring chances and lots of shots on goal. Matter of fact, the Kings had 10 shots on goal to Montreal's 1 in the first 5 minutes of this game. It would end up resulting in the Kings grabbing the lead, with defenseman Vladislav Gavrikov scoring on a shot from the point to make it 1-0. That was the only goal of the opening period. Second period, Montreal would tie it up on a fluky goal, deflection off of Drew Doughty and into the net, but LA would regain the lead on a penalty shot goal from Warren Foegele. That made it 2-1. In the opening seconds of the third period, Kings defenseman Brandt Clark would score on a point shot to make it 3-1 LA. However, Montreal would come right back. A point shot of their own goes into the net, and it's 3-2. Kevin Fiala would answer for the Kings, a beautiful one-time shot. That made it 4-2, but once again, Montreal would answer to cut it to 4-3. However, Kevin Fiala's second goal of the game, another one-timer, made it 5-3, and then Trevor Moore would ice it into an empty net. Final score, Kings 6, Montreal Canadiens 3 on the season. LA improving to 28-17-6, 16-3-1 now on home ice. They've beaten the Montreal Canadiens 8 straight times, and the Kings now hold a 3-point lead over Calgary and Vancouver for that third spot in the Pacific Division. As for the game stats in this one, the Kings led in the important categories, goals and shots on goal. LA with 6, not 4. If you're watching on the graphic here, it was, that score couldn't be any more wrong. I would blame someone else on it, but I'm the one in charge of that. Kings 6 goals, Montreal 3. Shots on goal favored LA 37-21. As for the power plays, LA 0 for 2, Montreal 0 for 3. Faceoffs favored the Canadiens 36-27. Hits favored Montreal 22-11. And block shots favored the Canadiens 17-12. But again, where it counted most on the scoreboard, and I think shots on goal were big in this one. The Kings were clearly better. And if you watch the game, the Kings were clearly the better team. Matter of fact, a couple of the goals from Montreal, frankly, were pretty fluky goals. This game could have been a lot more lopsided. And frankly, the Kings had a lot of scoring chances they didn't convert on, which could have made this more of a convincing victory. But what was good from a team standpoint for the LA Kings, well, obviously the start was fantastic. It set the tone, I thought, for the rest of the game. Kings, when they start strong and when they get that first goal, it's usually a very good indicator of how they're going to play, and the results usually are positive. Once again, the Kings' third period was their best period, putting up 4 goals in the third period. Great to see a nice distribution of goals, a lot of different people contributing, which we'll get more into in just a second. Also liked seeing a couple of goals coming from the blue line. I thought the Kings' defense overall was pretty good. Montreal, again, the 2 fluky goals. Penalty kill continues to be a big time strength for the LA Kings. What was not so good for the Kings from a team standpoint? Well, 6 goals does seem great, and it is great, especially considering where the Kings' offense has been lately. But the Kings still left goals on the table, if you will. There were some grade A scoring chances that the Kings failed to convert on. This one could have been over a lot sooner than it was. And again, the final score could have been a lot more lopsided than it was. We're not complaining about the number of goals. We're not complaining about the result, but facts are facts. The Kings had some great opportunities that they just didn't convert on, that they need to convert on those types of opportunities going forward. We did see on the game broadcast, I thought an interesting stat that the Kings actually at home have been decent on the power play, on the road, absolutely atrocious. So with so many games remaining, 21 games left, I believe, of 32 at home, perhaps that will be enough to get their power play at least being decent going into the postseason, but it wasn't decent on the night against the Montreal Canadiens. What else is new? The coach's quote in this one, Jim Hiller, saying about this win, quote, "We started how we're supposed to start. We just didn't score enough. We got one, I guess. It was a hard game to play. They scored a couple of funny goals. Kemps did have to make a couple of key saves, but it took the wind out of our sails a little bit when they scored those odd goals. We stuck with it. We had a couple of lines. Q's line was really dangerous all night. The puck went in. I think we maybe played a little bit faster, tried to get out of the zone a little bit when we had good possessions, increased our speed. The puck was going in against Carolina for sure. Tonight, I thought we had plenty of chances. Probably could have had a few more than we did. Sometimes it goes in. Sometimes it just goes in for you." End quote from Jim Hiller after the win over the Montreal Canadiens. So what is my big takeaway from this game? Well, I thought once the Kings got back home that they were going to be just fine, despite the terrible road trip, the record, and the lack of scoring. Now, they still have 2 more games to prove me right before the Four Nations break, but I honestly already feel like I'm over the trip. It's in the past, and it seems like the way the players have played, and certainly the win over Carolina to end the road trip helped out a lot, but the way the Kings played with the energy and the confidence, I just think they're past it. They're now back home where they're comfortable, and clearly they're one of the better teams in the NHL on home ice. The record indicates that, and I expect to see the Kings use that home ice advantage to solidify their playoff positioning and probably play their best hockey of the season going down the stretch and into the playoffs. Now, they still have to do it, but my big takeaway is I'm pretty confident that is what they're going to do. All right, up next, we're going to look at some individuals, and there were a lot of them that played very well in this win over the Canadiens. That's next here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities, and there is no better way to make every play more exciting than with the FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, that's icing on the cake. A Super Bowl rematch from a couple years ago as the Kansas City Chiefs are taking on the Philadelphia Eagles Kansas State looking to three-peat. Download the app and head to the FanDuel.com site to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, let's get into some of the individual players in the game, the victory over the Montreal Canadiens. As always, we start with the goaltender. That would be Darcy Kuemper. He allowed 3 goals on 21 shots in what was not Darcy's best game, but it was also probably better than the stats would indicate. First goal he allowed was a total fluke goal. The shot goes off of the butt of Drew Doughty, off of Kemper's head, and into the net. Kuemper never saw it, never reacted to it. The second goal was fluky as well. Not as fluky as the first one, but a shot from the blue line. It was just a shot on goal. I don't think the player that shot it ever really had a hope that it was going to go in. He was hoping for a deflection, maybe a rebound after a save, but it just found the back of the net. Drew Doughty was in front of the net. I don't know if he screened Darcy Kuemper on that or not. We never saw a good replay of it on the broadcast. Third goal, I did think was a pretty soft goal, shot from some distance. It was a weird play because Darcy Kuemper, as he was going to make the save, somehow he lost his stick. And as the puck went by him, he didn't have his stick in his hands. It was very odd. I didn't see anybody like skate through the crease and knock it out of his hand. If so, the Kings could have called for goalie interference, or unless it was a teammate. But again, maybe he was screened, but that's a goal you do not want to see go in from that far out. Saw it all the way. I thought he was not screened on that. But anyway, I will say it's nice to see Darcy Kuemper not play his A game and to still see the Kings win. I mean, that's the bottom line. But I didn't think he needed to be great. And frankly, he wasn't great in this one, but he was good enough. This is kind of the whole, Kings goaltending just being good enough. Darcy Kuemper's been great most of the season, but in this one, he was okay. Couple of fluky goals, but in the end, the result is what matters. Kuemper now on the season 16-6-6, including a 7-1 record on home ice. Kevin Fiala, I had a question. How is he going to follow up his spectacular game in Carolina where he scored not 1 but 2 highlight reel goals? And I got to tell you, I was pretty disappointed to start in this one because he didn't have a good first period, no shots on goal in the first period. And I thought, man, he's coming off this amazing game. He should be riding that right into this one, but he didn't to start. Fortunately, though, he got better and better as the game went along. Second period, he had a couple of good shots on goal. One was on a delayed penalty with the extra attacker. The other was on the subsequent power play. He also, at the end of the second period, just decided, I'm just going to take a wraparound shot and try and stuff it in. And the puck was loose in the net, and there was kind of a scramble for it. I love that. Take it to the net, put it in a dangerous area, and good things have a chance to happen, rather than just throwing some shot on from distance. I like him taking it strong to the net. There was one play where he took it to the net, and he lost it. He never got a shot on, but it was sitting there in the crease, and Kevin Fiala had a chance to score on a loose puck. So, again, just taking it to the net can result in good things happening. But when Fiala gets time and space, obviously, is when he can be special. We saw the incredible wrist shots in the win over Carolina. He had one in this one as well that rang off the post. Great wrist shot. But his 2 goals on this one were both perfectly timed one-timers. One on a nice cross-ice pass from Alex Laferriere, the other on a nice give and go from Vladislav Gavrikov. So Fiala showing his skills once again. Great to see. Hope we see a lot more of it going forward. Fiala now 20 goals on the season with back-to-back 2-goal games. Vladislav Gavrikov was very good in this game. Scored his 3rd goal of the season, first goal in 35 games, but Vladdy was all over the ice. Great opening period for him offensively. Scored on a nice point shot off the post and in. Had another scoring chance off a rebound from a Drew Doughty shot. Had that beautiful give and go with Kevin Fiala in the 3rd period to put the game away. I thought great recognition of who he was with on that give and go. And he's like, okay, I'm with Fiala. He's got a better chance of scoring than I do. He's got the hot hand. Let me give it right back to him for the shot. And he obviously put it in. Vlad did have a penalty, boarding penalty in this one in the second period, but I was actually okay with it. I mean, he did hit a player from behind. I understand why they made the call, but I thought the player kind of stopped up at the last second. and kind of put himself in a vulnerable position. But I understand why that was called. But I didn't have a big problem with that penalty. All in all, I thought Vladislav Gavrikov was great, and he continues to have the best season of his career this season. Quentin Byfield, Q had a great night, but I thought he could have had a monster night. He had a big shorthanded breakaway chance with the Kings up 2-1 in the second period and missed the net. You know, it's such a pet peeve of mine when you have those scoring chances. Make the goalie make a save. Don't make it easy on him by not putting it on net. Third period, he had a great chance I mentioned on that Kevin Fiala play where he took it to the net. Had another good chance on a pass from Fiala. I thought Q and Fiala looked dangerous together, which is great. All in all, great to see Q so active. He made a nice play on the boards, a physical play on the boards to spring Alex Laferriere, who eventually passed to Kevin Fiala for a big goal. So he was very active, but he had a very solid game, but I just thought he had a chance to have a monster game in this one. For Q, 17 assists now on the season. He had 3 assists in this game, 28 points now on the season for Quentin Byfield. Warren Foegele gets his 13th goal of the season, his first career NHL penalty shot attempt, and he scored on it, which made it 2-1. It was a really big goal at the time. That was the Kings' first successful penalty shot goal since Austin Wagner in 2020. The Kings had been 0 for their last 8 penalty shot attempts. LA 0 for 2 this season before Warren Foegele scored. Adrian Kempe and Alex Turcotte both failed on penalty shot opportunities earlier this year. I love the celebration for Foegele. He looked more relieved than excited. But when you take your first career NHL penalty shot, I can understand being nervous, but did a great job putting it in. And as we saw with the Byfield breakaway, he put it on net. He was going to make the goalie make a save, and he couldn't, and he scored. So you get those great opportunities, at least make that goalie make a save. I did want to mention Brandt Clarke getting his 4th goal of the season, his first in 27 games. Just a nice point shot right off the opening period, 15 seconds in. A little bit of traffic in front. Adrian Kempe was there. But I have to believe that Jim Hiller has been telling Clarke, get more shots on net. And it looked like he got the message with that shot. Be a little bit more direct with the puck instead of always looking to make a play. And again, good to see some production from the Kings defense. I do have to mention Drew Doughty, first home game of the season for Drew. I thought he had a great opening period offensively with some big point shots on net that did result in some rebounds and some scoring chances, but he was pretty bad defensively. He did have one good play where he broke up a 2-on-1 with that sliding play on your stomach, like we've seen Vladislav Gavrikov and Mike Anderson do a lot. But he also had a terrible turnover in the first period, a hot dog between the legs pass in his own zone that resulted in a turnover, and Darcy Kemper ended up taking a tripping penalty on it. He had another play where he just couldn't handle the puck, turned it over. It led for a shot on goal. The second period, he had that shot go off his butt and in the net. That's obviously not really his fault, but just kind of indicative of how it's going for Drew Doughty right now. There's still been no word on if he's going to be selected for Canada for that Four Nations face-off. And look, I respect Drew Doughty as the greatest defenseman in Kings history. I love his passion. I love that he wants to represent his country. Obviously, he's got international experience. He can provide leadership. But honestly, for what it's worth, based on what I have seen over the 4 games that he's played, if I were making the decision, I don't think I would be picking Drew Doughty for Team Canada. Now, I can't sit here and tell you who the other candidates might be, but Drew has had, it's been up and down since he's been back so far, and maybe that should be expected. He looks pretty rusty at times, and we'll see if he gets picked or not, but he's still kind of fighting a little bit. So, you know, again, maybe it's a good thing if he gets selected, he can go skate and get in the extra work. But so far, it's been not so great, I would say, for Drew Doughty in his return at this point. I'm confident in the end it'll be fine, but it's been a lot slower than I thought it might be to start off. Real quick, I did want to mention Adrian Kempe playing in his 600th career NHL game, so congrats to him for that. Kind of a quiet game for Juice. He took a hooking penalty. He also drew a penalty as well. He did have a 2-on-1 with Andrei Kopitar that they couldn't convert on. Kopi ended up passing it to a crashing Brant Clark, and he couldn't score. But overall, not your typical great game from Adrian Kempe. He was all right, but didn't get any points in this one. But good to see the Kings able to get 6 goals without their leading goal scorer even contributing. And I did want to mention Trevor Moore had a great 2-on-1 chance early on with Philip Deneau. Deneau making the nice pass over, and he just missed on a one-timer. It would have been a big goal for Trevor and scoring in back-to-back games, although he did score an empty netter to ice this one. But I think he would have liked to have gotten that earlier goal. He looked to the rafters on that one in frustration. But looking a little bit better is Trevor Moore. I did want to mention some Kings individual leaders from the game against Montreal. And you're going to hear, I didn't mention Alex Laferriere, but he had a hand in a lot of different stats in that game over Montreal. I think maybe a bigger game than it might have seemed. Kevin Fiala leading the Kings in goals with 2. Warren Foegele, Trevor Moore, Vladislav Gavrikov, Brant Clark each had 1. Quinton Byfield had a 3-point night with 3 assists. Warren Foegele and Vladislav Gavrikov each had 2 points with an assist and a goal. Anze Kopitar, Alex Laferriere, Alex Turcotte each had an assist. Quinton Byfield and Alex Laferriere were each a +3. Warren Foegele, Vladislav Gavrikov, and Joel Edmondson were each a +2. Alex Laferriere and Trevor Moore each had 5 shots on goal. Kevin Fiala and Warren Foegele had 4. Philip Deneau, Anze Kopitar, and Alex Laferriere each had 2 blocked shots. Tanner Jeannot and Alex Laferriere each had 2 hits. Drew Doughty led the Kings at ice time with 25 minutes and 16 seconds. A little surprised by that. Anze Kopitar was the Kings' best player in the faceoff circle. He won 11 and lost 9. Up next, the Kings. We're going to tell you who their 3 stars of the night are. We'll do that next year on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Those of you that live in Southern California, you know we are so lucky to live in a place where we could see so many live events, sports, theater events, concerts, comedy shows. And when you check out these live events, you need to use Gametime for all your ticket needs. Gametime is a new feature called Gametime Picks. It makes getting tickets for live events even easier, filters out the fluff, so you see only the incredible deals on great seats. And the all-in pricing feature shows you the total up front. There are no surprise fees at checkout. And you can check out the Vantage Point with a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And you'll get the lowest price guaranteed, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. My favorite part of the show when we give out our 3 stars, because we only do it when the Kings win. And there were certainly some worthy candidates in this one. But in the end, I thought it was pretty obvious who the 3 players who really stood out were. My number 3 star is Quinton Byfield for his 3 assist night. Thought he had great energy, was flying around all over the ice. But again, just a couple of chances he had to score that he failed to convert on. I think Q could have easily been the number 1 star in this game if he could have converted on a couple of his chances. All in all, though, still a very good game for Quinton Byfield. Number 2 star for me is Vladislav Gavrikov. The Kings defenseman was all over the ice, playing his solid, great defense, but chipping in offensively as well with a goal, with an assist. Thought he had a very, very strong game. And our number 1 star, I think, pretty obviously, Kevin Fiala, second straight 2-goal game. 2 big goals, both coming in the third period. He got better and better as the game went along. We talked about good Kevin, bad Kevin. Well, right now we are seeing great Kevin, and hopefully we see great Kevin, or at least good Kevin, going forward. I love his aggressiveness. Love how he's taking the puck to the net. Just want to see more and more of it. Just keep doing it, Kevin. You're having a great couple of games. So those were our 3 stars of the game in the win over Montreal: Quinton Byfield, Vladislav Gavrikov, and Kevin Fiala. All right, looking ahead for the Kings, back-to-back home games coming up on Friday and Saturday. Friday, the always tough Dallas Stars come to town. They sit in second place in a very good Central Division, so that will be a challenge for the Kings for sure. And then you got the Ducks coming in on Friday, so back-to-back games means we will see David Rittich in one of those games. I would assume Darcy Kemper would start against the Stars and Rittich against the Ducks. but we shall see. I did fail to mention this the other day, and I did want to get it in. It was certainly mentioned on the game broadcast, and want to say congratulations to former Kings goalie Jonathan Quick. If you missed it over the weekend, he picked up his 400th career victory. He'd been stuck on 399 for a couple of weeks, but he finally got the win, and that amazing milestone. He is the winningest American-born goaltender in NHL history, first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greatest goaltenders of all time, and the greatest American goaltender of all time, in my opinion, in my biased opinion. And one more quick note, I want to mention Samuel Fugimo wrapped up his time at the AHL All-Star Game with a goal and an assist, playing for the Pacific Division team. His team went 1-1-1 in the event, but a pretty nice, impressive showing for Samuel Fugimo. Hopefully he had a great time. Being an AHL All-Star is certainly a reward for having a great first half of the season. And I'm very curious to see if maybe the Kings give him a chance to show what he can do at some point this season. I'm kind of doubting it, to be honest with you, but be interesting to see if maybe he gets an opportunity. All right, you everydayers, those of you that listen to watch Locked On LA Kings every day, coming up on tomorrow's show. I'm a little late to the party on this, but I did want to get in on my all-quarter decade team for the LA Kings. Is it quarter decade? Or I guess it's quarter century, actually. It's since the 2000s, right? Since we're at 2025, it's the past 25 years. So that's a quarter century, not decade. And so, yeah, this is a thing that has been going on around the NHL. And so I wanted to get in on it and pick my all quarter century team for the LA Kings. Also, probably have another trade target player profile. And I'm going to that Luc Robitaille luncheon on Thursday as well. We'll tell you how that went and see if we get to ask maybe Luc a question. If you want to send an email to the show for any reason, including our Friday fan feedback show, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE. Always welcome to post your thoughts on each show that you are watching. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, and post your comments there. Love for you to stay interactive with the show on social media, X, Twitter, Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Have a great rest of your day. We will talk to you tomorrow. And as always, go Kings, go.